Hello, my name is Creostix, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. We're continuing from where we left off in the last case, so here we go. Episode 3, The Adventure of the Runaway Room. Let's go. Yes.
Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner.
No.
My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident, "I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude. The beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together."
Alrighty then. Anime time, let's go.
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
It looks a lot like the railway station of Helsinki, actually. From the inside, at least. Like with the glass ceiling and the doobly-doos.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So this is the capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure. I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay. And welcome to the centre of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
There we are. (18th of February, 9:21 a.m. British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. Dots again, here we go. What an incredible place. It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. You're breathtaking! It looks like a fortress. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course. But they've only been built in the few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? A far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from. It's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office, Naruhodo-san, in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. The Lord Chief Justice. We had instructions to report here at this time. If circumstances were different, we were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. No, we can't. No. So instead we are here in a different capacity. As envoys to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Oh no! But what if I tell everyone that I'm Kazuma-sama and we'll be fine, yes? Yes. And having delivered his or her message as an envoy's duty is done. So we'd have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as the law student selected for the study tour. Yes, which means I need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it is the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London. Haha. I hope I'm up to scratch. Ah, good morning. Sorry to keep you. Oh. That reminds me of the police chief in case 5 of the first game a little bit. I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan. It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. My apologies. Oh, no, don't mention it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I am Male Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. Aha. And I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo, don't be a mouse. Oh, it's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ruinosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Yes, thank you. Converse, I believe? London. So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? Oh, help! I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh? We had a wonderful view of some London streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything is so impressive and grand. I must say I'm almost lost for words. I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water and gas, even cables supplying electricity. Yum yum, fish and chips, top hats and heavy industry, yep. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor in London is astounded. Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Susato-san. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor. Like in BioShock, yes. Vigor. Yes, there's much excitement about the upcoming great exhibition we will be hosting here in London. Great exhibition? Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world. Even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set on our great empire. Are you as smart as my daddy, Mr. Not Without Adam? You aren't come visit the Gatherer's Garden. Exactly. Perhaps it is fate that in these progressive times we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Law student. Lord Chief Justice. I think you were expecting a student of law for this study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. Mr. Kazuma Asogi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on this situation. I understand the young man has lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. That's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. And you honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Oh, and again, always let me know like if the audio is too loud in the music or something. I feel the music is a little maybe stronger than before, but it might still be okay, you know. Don't want to be drowned out, you know. Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. Ah, it's good. Okay. And they tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that it's true. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of the young lawyer means the study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What do you have to say, madam? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo. This is it then. The moment of truth. I propose you shake my hand and we go by. Bye-bye. Continuing the study tour. Just watch. He's gonna end up being a murderer in like the final case or something. Just watch. The thing is, Lord Justice, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead. Don't misunderstand me. Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead. But without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. ... Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country. And that was Mr. Asogi. At least that is what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well at all. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. Mr. Naruhodo! I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I going to say? If there is someone else here from Japan who would be described as a lawyer, it is, there is no one! Let's go home! Bye! Sorry. It's me! It's me. I can do it. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but... No qualifications, you say, and yet you still claim to be a lawyer? I have acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once, as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me, and I was the accused, but glossing over the details. I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Boria. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe, not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Asogi's journey had only just begun. Coming here on this study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set me, just one chance, that's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhodo, it was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted, a perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words on trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. Let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yes? You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that? Yeah, he did react to that one part. I'm wondering if he knows something that Asogi was about to do. That's really dramatic or whatever. Like, it sounds like there's a lot of gravitas somewhere in there. Well, yes, that's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Or did his expression just alter a fraction there all of a sudden? I think you're onto something. Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? Test. So, what form of will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as yet, so this will be welcome news. Today? Straight away? If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? How do I get myself into these situations? Well, could I ask, what sort of a trial is it, Lord Stormheart? It's a murder trial. Of course it's a murder trial. Yes. Good question. I remember. It's a murder trial. Let's go. A murder? Not surely in London, the best place in the world, can be a murder. An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easy to say. But I should mention, just in case, if the defendant is found guilty, he will be, of course, sentenced to capital punishment. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death? Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably, you read that much in your short, sea-based introduction to British law. We can't possibly agree to such a test. We would be toying with a man's life. I am the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? There's no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose. So the defendant may live or die depending on how we'll perform in court. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. And you say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What is it to be? What do I say? Do I agree to this absurd test? Let's go! Alright then, if I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... I can't do it. I can't get the words out. 15 seconds. Decision making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire a ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry, Mr. Sato, but what could I do? It's alright, I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. But resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madam? I think what Mr. Sato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable, and I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock, they may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. Trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. He will be received the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful. But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Please don't expect an answer to every question. The cold hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. I'm really his only hope? So, what do you say now, madam? Me? What do you mean, Longstrongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances, and I agree. But in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves. Well, let's go defend. He's gone. He turned into birds and he's gone. The Old Bailey. If you're going to do this, Mr. Naruhodo, we must leave at once. Let's go. "18th of February, 9:45 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber." Ah, a very old historical type, but similar looking scene, if you will, from other Ace Attorney games. Oh, thank goodness, we're in time. There are still 15 minutes until the trial begins. Oh, good! We'll learn everything about the case in 15 minutes. It'll be fine. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were going to rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Sherlock Holmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly. I'm not sure why you're so pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever is about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Well, you know, 40 days ago, but still. Yes, whoever the... well, 50 days ago, including the first case, but yeah. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. Top of the morning to you, madam, sir. It's the Penguin from Batman! What are you doing following me here? Things are fair and desperate, are they? Sorry? Would you look at those expressionless faces? From the east, are yous? We're from Japan, yes. Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all while in a strange, faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. You can we stay in your hat? 'Tis grand, 'tis grand. Let me start by giving yous 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. One thing I always kind of make note of is I'm not a... I find it funny that he's so clock obsessed, but he still showed up to meet nearly 2 hours late. That is true, yeah. I got a feeling that that's probably gonna be like a... Like, it's probably gonna mean something later in a, like a metaphorical or some sort of other way about the whole, you know, whatever. I'm always a little like, it's always a very risky decision to write down an accent. You know, like, with a lot of apostrophes and missing letters and words that are not correctly spelled and so on. Writing up accents is, I feel, not the way to go. I don't think I've ever seen a text where it's genuinely... It makes it more difficult to read and makes you more aware that you're reading instead of experiencing it, you know? 1,000 guineas? Please, Mr. Soto, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is... That's like 5 euros, right? No, I know it's plenty. I'm just having a spot of fun, if you will. It's enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious of Tokyo. Right. What? is nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I've enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Oh, goody. Then you can probably, buy us a law degree as well, yes? Just you know, as a side coin thing, yeah? Could that much rain fall in one day? Well, even so, we couldn't possibly... Yes, we could! We absolutely could! I overrule! Yes. Couldn't accept such a large sum of money. That hit me in the eye. It's tricky. I've seen a couple of examples that broke train spotting by Irving Welsh is phonetically in Scots. I haven't read train spotting, so, you know. It's his native manner of speaking, though. I never find it fun to read accents. It's just my preferred like way of reading. Like all people sound different, and I feel reading an accent is just an experience that is... It's... I don't know. If anything, it pulls me more out of the story if something. I don't like it. You need to have extremely good reason to do it, and I don't think it's gonna come up here. Like, you know, we are Japanese. I'm sure that we too actually speak in a bit of a honestly, the voice actors in the anime sounded a little too fluent, considering that, like, you know, they don't speak English, and now they're speaking to this man. You know, remember, they couldn't really understand the elegant lady in the first case. So I kind of feel the anime is, you know, maybe they were speaking to each other and it was like translated to our benefit, but whatever they are speaking to him is surely not also wouldn't be written perfectly as it is. It's trying to write out a manner of speaking. It's just a busy work thing to read, and I don't like it. I don't think it's ever been good into my eyes. No. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it to you no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, it's a little embarrassing. The trial that's about to begin, you see, is for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you can be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh well, the thing is... Don't worry about a thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it's true. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it all up. I'm truly sorry to have to ask, but... Does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Luster in blazes, do you not know who I am? Me? One of London's biggest names? No, sorry. We've only just arrived in the city, you see. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park there, in the center of London, is another beautiful park. Sorry, a park? What? It's called McGilded Park, full of blossoming flowers in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park? In central London? A city of smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing a Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its square old people. That's amazing! I mean, really extraordinary. Ah, but now they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you? Ha ha ha. Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo. Perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath. Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying, you daft idiot? Yeah, they're aiming for an Irish lilt with this, how it's written, but took a few lines to nail that down. Still, as a personal subjective opinion, I don't like it when they write down accents. They also did the the accent stuff in the Layton spin-off game, The Mystery Room. There was like one or two words they kept putting in like a slang accent way, and it kind of bothered me. I've given you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This chancer of a fella claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Because he did it. That's the only explanation. Well? Well... Not at all. Not at all. Although it's a little strange, to be honest. Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean. That would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry, did you just say Reaper? Aye, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Baruch van Zeeks. He's a prosecutor. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. So it's reached the desperate situation, where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness, Lord Baruch van Zeeks. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor, then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madam. It's cursed. Cursed? What on earth? The defendant is summoned, and his counsel. Please make your way to the courtroom. The trial is about to begin. His counsel, that would be me. Oh, this time. Well then, fella, don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here, I'd made up my mind, so I had. Sorry? I decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance, a student of law, wouldn't you know? This is no accident, I can assure you of that. This is fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. I literally know nothing about the case, or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo, the man is no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something that Kazuma would never have allowed to happen. Counsel for the defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you will lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. It's happening then. My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because I have no idea how I'm going to manage this. What if we contact Kazuma through the sword? Would that work? That looks like a very warm seat. 18th February 10 AM, the Old Bailey Courtroom. So this is the highest court in Great Britain, the Old Bailey. The centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere makes words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes, what? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. It's Santa Claus! Can we have Christmas presents? Can we have a Christmas present of not guilty, please? That's what I want for Christmas, right now. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. But aren't you supposed to be making toys for children, though? Is this how you spend your summers? Have we discovered the summer job of Santa Claus? We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, and also Batman. That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense, you appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English? Oh, yes, of course, sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready, and I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. Those eyes please me. Nipponese. They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. And perspiration, too. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. Ah, a cold shiver just ran down my spine all the way to the tips of my toes. Santa's summer job, exactly! Now we know! Now, Mr. McGilded. Yes, my lord? You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? He has no choice, and I am a very, very lucky foreigner, it seems. At least on not guilty verdicts. As I've always said, my lord, it is a grand thing to give opportunities to the young. Even if the fella is a student from some little island off in the Far East. Is it not the British way to ignore the dangers to yourself and give those less fortunate a fair chance? I'd like to think that acts of chivalry do the great British Empire proud. Listen to Mr. What a fine gentleman London has in him. Did you hear that they donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Mother, please maybe go and play in Mr. McGilded Park. It seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded. That's definitely welcome news, and he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. So now, if we get a guilty verdict, the next plan is to go to Korvatunturi next Christmas and go sit in Santa's lap, get a good grip on the beard and just ask, why did you do the guilty verdict? How could you? All of the think of the children. Yes. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Yes, my lord. If the task is to send rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree. Ha! Any criminals here will soon be wishing they never set eyes on me. Okay. I feel a chill, so I took a drink. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. I must finish these mitts for my grandson. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo, those people are the jury. Yes, that's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right. I've only ever read about it. We don't have a jury in Finland either. Actually, the American system of, like, jurors sounds very odd to me in some ways. You see, like, in Finland, how it goes, there's an odd number of judges. I once witnessed a thing, and I think there was 3. Like, the main judge and a couple of, like, assisting ones. But nonetheless, like, the like, actual qualified judge or judges will determine guilt or innocence based on, like otherwise it's the usual, the prosecution, the defense, the blah, blah, blah. But a judge says guilty, not guilty, just like in the normal Ace Attorney games, and like in Japan as well, or in the Japan of this game, I mean. The thing about juries is like, I'm not sure that it's always sensible to rely on normal everyday people to understand some intricacies of, like, for example, economics law or some sort of, whatever other intricacies of law, for number one. Number two, I'm under the impression that they all also have to agree in the end. And I've seen, like, you take 20 people, and a percentage of them, especially, a percentage of them will not be smart enough to, like, I wouldn't want my fate to be in the hands of the average people. Like, it sounds like a decision made not in smart brains, if I'm perfectly honest. It sounds like a very not logical way to deal justice. Like, assuming the judge isn't corrupt, I'll go judge, if I may. Perhaps Santa's just learning new ways to determine who is naughty and who's nice. That could be the case, yes. And then sends them to their deaths. So, you're naughty, you need to die. Like, oh, cool. Naughty kids get hanged. That's nice. But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. Yeah, common sense is not... Considering what the average people in the end are, common sense is not something I don't like it. So the defendant is ultimately judged from two completely different points of view. But how exactly do the jurors give their verdict? I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. Oh cool, we'll just learn on the job, it'll be fine. Yes! Prosecutor Van Zeeks. My lord? I like the wardrobe, if nothing else. It's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. I'm known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So, what brings you back? Is there some change of circumstance of which the court should be aware? Is a circum... Well, there are plenty of us already in the world, so a few sacrifices here and there wouldn't be too bad. Yeah, true. I leave that to your imagination. Like, maybe that's Santa's biggest gift to the world, to prevent overpopulation. He gives gifts on one day of Christmas, and every other day he sentences people to death to avoid overcrowding. I think that's the racket. Yeah, exactly. There we go. Ho ho ho. I'll leave that to your imagination, my lord. So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose today of all days to make comeback? I mean, I agree, but if he didn't, then you wouldn't have gotten your chance to appear in court. So, you know, circumstance does sorta kind of benefit you in some weird, messed up way. Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo. As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. You must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. The incident took place in the late evening, 3 days past. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks, known in the community as Thrice-Fired Mason. Sorry? Thrice? He was very accomplished, a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Dark humor is fine, don't worry about it. It's all good. Dark humor is like... I'm sure... have you... I'm sure you probably missed my dark humor stuff in Fallout New Vegas, where I have multiple times over placed mutilated dead bodies on the porch of a saloon to make modern art, so I think we're good. Here is the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. A report prepared by the Scotland Yard coroner gives the cause of death as internal hemorrhaging as a result of a single stab wound to the abdomen. Yep, so that one there, but there we go. A photograph of the victim taken on the omnibus. The knife in his abdomen is clearly visible, but his face is partly obscured from view by an old crooked hat. Alright. And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are gloves, I see. Good lord! Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by policemen who arrived at the scene, these gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilden's gloves had blood on them? Mr. McGilden, how could you? Yes, I will accept these as evidence as well. The defendant's leather gloves have been entered into the court record. How did I get into this? I'm backed into a corner before I've even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2? Obviously, one of these passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilden. Oh no! McGilden, how could you? I think we might have to plead guilty. I think it's the only way. We'll save your soul through admitting the guilt, and it'll all be fine then. I promise. You'll be treated well in hell, and all ends perfectly fine. Yes, I think we can all agree that that's the only course of action to take. Yes, yes, good. I'm glad we agree. And we still get to keep the 1,000 guineas. Yes, yes. I think the jury agrees. Well, rather damning circumstances, to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilden, how could you? To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening, but whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? It is the motion of the carriage, my lord, lilting so it is. And when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me, the body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before me in me life. Now I ask yous, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about the gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. I see. But the blood got under the gloves just then, after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver is only the beginning. That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Order, order, order! When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage. And there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It is the nail in the coffin for the accused. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses at once. Witnesses, your names and occupations. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. My name's Fust. Lady First. Lady First. Make hats for gents, and you're called Lady First. Alright. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir, that's right, sir. Very well then, let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. What the witnesses saw. Right. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. Oh no! That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. I couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too. Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel. Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage. There's windows? What? How quaint. I'd read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you even traveled in an omnibus? Well, no. We only arrived in London this morning. No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves, the actual scene of the crime, that is. What do you mean? The actual scene? How? A carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much. Yes. The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today, in this very building. Here? What? The entire carriage? Bailiff? Bring forth the stricken omnibus, and make hoarse noises while you do it, to make it authentic. I mean, why not, right? Have the carriage here. So that's an omnibus, the omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. Amazing! As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and carry up to 8 passengers. Four passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured might be the case. A skylight. Oh! The penny drops at last, I see. these two gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. Ah, that makes perfect sense. Well, counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. Can I fit it into my courtroom record? Huh? That is the prosecution's wish. Very well, I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. The 8-seater omnibus that was the scene of the crime. There were passengers both inside the carriage and on the roof deck that night. I can't believe it, the entire crime scene entered as evidence? Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Let us continue with proceedings, then. Your cross-examination, counsel. Pray don't expect this Nipponese stray to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights. Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Ruinosuke, and punch yourself. Let's go. What they saw. Alright, let's start pressing.
Hold it!
Hold it! Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes. Ever so cold it was, sir. Freezing, in fact. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course, though, no. Then there were no other passengers when the incident took place. No one alighted, for example. You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that, no, none. So nobody fled the scene of the crime, then. I have to say, the boss insists on it running, he does, every evening, that last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, what with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you see. Yes, I spent that much at the pub on the way home just trying to warm up again. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus.
Hold it!
Hold it! And you saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage. That's right, when you sit up on the top deck, the window's right there at your feet. There was a lamp on inside, so I had a pretty good view. The two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Gotta go to work now, but I have nice dreams. See you next time. Hell yeah, have an excellent day at work, Rosie, and thanks for watching, and thanks for chatting, and all that good stuff, and again, have an excellent day at work. I hope it goes super well, and hey, at least it's no longer super hot, so at least it's bearable, right? So, fingers crossed, yeah? But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGilded is a gentleman of a rather small stature. True that, hell yeah. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only person inside the enclosed cabin with the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded. There is no room for doubt here. I really wish there was. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts.
Hold it!
Hold it! You actually saw the exact moment it happened. Didn't I already testify to that? Or are fair dinkum hard-working city bankers not considered trustworthy these days? Oh no, I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord. Juror number 3. What is the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They've always up to something or other than they shouldn't be, every one of them. You look kind of rich yourself, my dude. What you're wearing looks pretty expensive, just saying. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. Hold it. That is precisely what I was about to say. As a foreman of the jury, it is my duty to set good example to my fellow jurors. And they throw fireballs to make scale balances go. Because it's Capcom. That's how you do justice in Ace Attorney. What's happening here? Let me see. Ah yes, it seems that that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Very well. The court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. It's a nightmare. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed I did, I couldn't help it.
Hold it!
Hold it! He stabbed him, you say, and you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I'd been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out of his belly, that huge great knife. A grim sight indeed. That didn't help me at all. The jury looked like they were even more convinced my client did it than they were before. But appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGilded is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First. Oh yes, sir. Is this the knife you saw? Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. The very one, sir. Is that... Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like the stake through the heart. That is a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Maybe it's Mrs. Santa Claus, though. You just never know. Ugh, please, no. M, for Magnus perhaps, or McGilded possibly. Take your pick. It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection!
Objection! But there are M's everywhere. Like in James Bond movies. Yes. Like in Mason.
Objection!
Objection! This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder is almost certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel. A large-ish knife that was found lodged in the victim's abdomen. Its quality and fancy ornamentation suggest it must be quite valuable. My lord, if you'll forgive me the interruption... juror number 2. Go on. Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman. And a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish! No! I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. Hold it! I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I'm now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion. This is going really well. Not again. That's 4 out of 6 jury members who've proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, it just makes the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us way to fight back. But... alright. I'll keep trying. I can't give up. Also, can I examine, like, stuff? Armband I inherited from Kazuma. It identifies the wearer as a defense lawyer throughout the Empire of Japan. Yeah. Alright, okay. Thrice fired Mason, occupation brickmaker, 15th February, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Stabbed once in the abdomen with a knife whilst journeying in an omnibus. Died due to internal hemorrhaging resulting from the trauma. Crime scene photograph, yeah. Missing a button. Not sure if that's relevant, but it's missing. Nothing else is immediately springing to mind, but, you know. Defendant's leather gloves. Anything else than the blood on them? Not really. This is definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our own first day in London. Well, nothing will come of grumbling now. No. By the way, is Mr. McGilded right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand earlier. A little earlier. Ah, pity. If only he'd been left-handed. I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really. Yeah. That is true enough. Nothing inside either, I think. Yep, I think that's everything. All right. How much of a big... okay, omnibus. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin, so I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. That's not good for us. So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here. So people sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights with the cold air just rushing past them, and they have to pay money to do so? Ugh, can't imagine how cold it must feel. That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as a punishment? Perhaps that is the real price you pay to stay out late. Right. Roof deck of the omnibus. Yeah, same thing, okay? Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? The scene of a murder. It's horrible. You know, in the middle of a cross-examination, the counsel wishes to climb inside the crime scene. Thanks, bye. That's blood that's soaked into the seat, the victim's, obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab somebody in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark, and there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Ah, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Ooh, the Crystal Tower, it's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. Uh-huh. So it's so they're both for the same thing then. Grand Tower, Crystal Tower. Yeah, okay. The seat has a handle, it seems. Could someone have hidden in there? This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding tubs, tools to repair wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools. So the storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems. Doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to show their luggage, that's for sure. Well, I mean, there's a bit of space. Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway. Uh-huh. Yeah, but what about the empty part there? Alright. And there's not a handle on this end. Okay. Quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description. So I suppose it can't be opened from the inside the cabin at least. Right. It is an interesting way to have a crime scene investigation, I will grant it that. I'm not seeing anything else of any description, though. It's not doing anything on the windows. And I can't do any details inside the storage compartment. Okay, I think we're good. Phoenix Wright Omnibus. Okay. Well then. I'm not sure what I was expecting to read there, but it was not Phoenix Wright Omnibus. Okay. I'm actually kind of surprised that there's no like no examination dialogue about that one. Let's just examine the door before I do just that much. I should probably just check what they say about this. Have you seen enough? Let's step back outside then. Yeah, okay. Alright. So that's... looks like that's probably... not seeing much of else. That's just a seat again. Yeah, not a lot to... okay. And this. That part is a sheath, isn't it? Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Hmm? Oh, sorry, yes. I just don't really like blades. Oh. Those don't seem like the words of a man with a large katana slung from his waist. That's not a blade, that's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. It looks like it was dipped in red wine. That looks like a lot of blood. That looks a lot like blood. It surely is blood of the victims. An Englishman's blood looks a lot like Japanese man's blood. Yeah? Did you think it wouldn't? Sorry, it's just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust. Yes, I do understand. Okay. They mentioned the M. An ornate letter M, undeniably Mr. Magnus McGilded's initial. And it's beautifully gilded too, it must be very valuable, I should think. Ah, what is it? Look at this M. If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything. A W? Yes, this is one of those, you know, turnabout cases. I'm sure of it. I'm afraid I don't know it all, but what I'm sure of is that this is an M. Oh, well that idea was quickly squashed. Not seeing much else, so alright. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again. Alright, so I should have some sort of piece of evidence that points me toward the right direction, huh? That is a... Alright, so when it happened, the only two people in the enclosed cabin area were the victim and the defendant. And so help me. 3 whole people witnessed the man I'm trying to defend the deed. I don't like to be pessimistic, but we do seem to be in a rather difficult situation here. What am I supposed to think here? Is Mr. McGilded really innocent? Or could it be? Before we jump to conclusions, our first task should be to gather information. We need to understand the case much better than we do at the moment. Yes, you're absolutely right. Let's listen to the witnesses' statements again, a little more carefully this time. Alright.
Hold it!
Hold it! What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. The collapsed on the floor he was. And by the passenger, obviously you are referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And the other passenger that had a knife in his hand, I thought I saw "I like this," but no, like this, yes. By the other passenger, you are referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded. And then plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. What? My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5. I do take it that you too, as the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse is bolted, as they say. No, please, just keep an open mind a little longer. Gee up now, Silverblaze, the finish is in sight. Beppo is a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. Ah, this is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dear? What can I do for you? You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Oh yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He's always doing wonderful things for the city. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, maybe go to the McGilded Public Library later and borrow some more books. How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know what kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of a man is he? Well, do you pray tell? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. Does he play Dark Souls? What? Stone the crows. McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He's a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that the victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name, save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his predator was the accused Magnus MacGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debts. Good gracious. The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house, he had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus MacGilded. I don't believe it. Hold it! If I might add something briefly. Mr. Sato? You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. MacGilded. But where's the evidence to support your claim? Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law. Aha! There it is! Lord Van Zeek's hallowed chalice. How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from Far East could show great courage, but didn't expect to experience it myself. Ah! As a judicial assistant to the defense, I'm simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Well, there we have it then. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. A marvelous toast, Counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence. Alrighty. We are entering a time of new evidence. Yes, it is quite something. Ah yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum. And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best. Ah, wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before... I don't stand for nonsense. I think that doesn't mean guilty verdict. I think that just means what they're leaning, probably. I think the the procedure still takes a little bit of time to be completed, if you will. That's my guess. That was it. The last juror's decision. According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. Oh dear. Ah, the final verdict. It's over then. Oh. There's a footnote, though. A footnote? However, all 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial. By delivering my final verdict, I trust there are no objections. Mrs. Sato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did it say next? Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded the defendant is guilty, court proceedings, blah, 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 blah. Footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. A summation examination?
Objection!
Objection! A summation examination. From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Ah! Judging from the binding, I would say that the book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, unforgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. However, has that law been, stricken from the books? Is it still there or no, is the question, though. Practicing is a different matter. Like, you'd be amazed how many things were legal and illegal only a few short decades ago just weren't thought about. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Mr. Sato? This so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails. Typical Nipponese. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under the procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And it says here that if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse the decisions. Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really, so it rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age. Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? A summation examination, our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out or admit defeat? Forget it, we're dead! I think we gotta go forward, right? What else could we do? Assert our right. The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
Objection! London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
Objection. But if it's our right, it's our right. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Huh? Well, I'm not, there was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so, Sorry, I found more hair. Right, so... All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify decisions and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. This is most irregular. A mention was made of this before. I don't really hold with all this justifying lark. That seems to have thrown the jurors off. Haha! We have gained an advantage, maybe. A little bit. It seems none of them have experienced this before. Alright then, the summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for. To turn this trial around. So be it then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant Magnus MacGilded guilty of this most serious crime. Judicial findings, let's go. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver, he has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say, absolutely brazen. I have simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusions. You can trust the guild. Fair fares is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence for years. The scoundrel stabbing the poor man on the floor. It beggars belief. Especially the floor part, because he was sitting dead, yes? I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed this for this show. For this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they? That's the jury for you. Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I have to throw everything I can at them, and use some very persuasive language. Just a moment, Mr. Naruhara. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, They've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, if they recoil on you, the more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. Then what on earth am I supposed to do? It's just like turning around some queue people. Come on. Oh dear. I'm just citing what I've heard, what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. Yeah? They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, we then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see, so it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination. Oh, yes, I suppose you're right. Okie dokie. Find contradictions in their statements and pit jurors against one another to break them down. Alright, I might be able to pull this off. Fingers crossed. We have one shot, one opportunity, and we're gonna do it. Alright, no, that's not right. I have to pull this off. Yes, just like a nail in your foot, you have to pull this off. Can we start proceeding, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting to clear a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. And sorry that I'm armed in your courtroom, but that's fine, I'm sure. The defense's rebuttal. Okay, safety save, but I believe at least the way, the murder on the floor and the murder on, like, sitting next to him by, 6 and 3, yes? So, pit this with this.
Objection!
Objection! Those 2 statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel, post haste. Oh dearie me, I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3... What? Can you see that I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ha, wanna test me, do you? Like this! Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, just like the prim banker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it... Like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now don't move. Take a look at these two jurors. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, and he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're contradictory. Brr, brr, brr. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches. What a muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh. But why? Why the dickens would they lie? Because they are in cahoots! Cahoots, I tell you! I don't know that. It's cahoots! Cahoots is the answer. I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. The scales. I don't believe it. Hold it. Wait. Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him and his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What of it if two witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him in the omnibus, and this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor and then the Shylock stabbed him again. And this lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that, Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why I should take this knife to you? Why are you calling old? Why I should take this needle to you? Ah, they're ready to kill each other now. Could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the two witnesses see two different moments of the same crime? I think it's out of the question. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, you Dark Jinx? Come on, out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I see the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime. If you see that's out of the question, then show me some proof. Safety safe, but I think it's out of the picture probably, because like he's sitting in the picture. Like why would they, you know, have him stand up again or like sit up again, you know? It looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with something he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime as proven by... single stab. That's there. I was wondering about the autopsy report. Single stab. There we are.
Take that!
Take that! This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen only once. Ah, only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means these witnesses can possibly have seen it happen 2 different times. Grr. Alright. I concede defeat. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo, you did it! If you can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more. Actually, there is something else that is bothering me about a couple of their assertions. Then that's what you must strike next. So I need to pit 2 more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction in their assertions. Exactly. You can do it. Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. I'm no lover of the rich, but I despise liars even more. Innocent is my call for now at least. You can trust the guild. Fair wares is our motto. We haven't raised prices about... I think the price about the... So, hold on. Accusation based on lies. I wonder if the poor man's innocent after all. Right. So we just need to find two jurors with the contradictory statements and pit them against... It didn't start from the top, though. That was a bit weird. Easier said than done. Is that perhaps what you're just thinking? How did you know? Well, I took the liberty of doing some research in case you happen to find yourself in such a situation. So I read you what you find out. It's a little long, I'm afraid. Not right now. If I have to rely on advice from the start, how will I get on later? No, I need to work this out for myself now. Just thinking? How did you know? Well, that sort of attitude is most admirable, Mr. Naruhodo. I know what I have to do. Let's listen to those assertions one more time. Trust the driver, he has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. So 20 pence total, or 4 pence per year. There we go. It is different, yeah. Boom.
Objection!
Objection! Those two statements clearly contradict each other. They do? Explain yourself, Counsel. Me? Oh yeah, what have I said? I swear on Silver Blaze's maiden name, I haven't the first idea of what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on the night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right, I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That is right. A fair and a convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each, if you do the multiplication... it would be 16 pence. Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely 1 person's fare. 1 person's fare? Yes. In other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Good gracious! This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is fallacy. I beg your pardon. Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely be spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus. Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end, Well, according to my book here, simply launch a ball of fire onto the innocent side of the set of scales. Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Bippo. Ah, it's all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir, I'm going to do the same. Whoa! Victory! Well, not quite, but we survived. For the love of Mike, not you as well. A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Wait, that means 4 jurors are not leading not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. Well, not won, but like, we survived. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. Hope we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair of his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balances of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate, and the trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, a prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places. And I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. Oh boy. So, Lord Van Zeeks. Continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. No hurry. Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice, do you have more? It may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks! Brr, is it cold in here or is it just me? As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There's nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Battle on, Batman! The cape is off! Oh no! Bring forth the witnesses once more. Let's go. Let's do this. Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Oh, yes, sir. That I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh, yes, sir. I heard it. You, sir, on the end, the coachman. I believe it's Beppo. Yes, sir, my lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a 5th passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh mio Dio. What, he's Italian? I'm not sure. is that Italian, but that's my first thought. Now then, witnesses, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. Various misgivings. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it, but, well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing the man. Everything I said before stands. Yes, he stabbed him, yes he did. I think so, yes. Okay, press the coachman, like, really hard. Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom 5th passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cozenage. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The Guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold and the last run of the day is always half empty. You've been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo, a disgrace. And your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers is 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see we intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely. Let's go. Hold it! So, there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make the last run of the day pay. I was so cold, it was all I could do to stop myself passing out. I'm getting chilblains just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night, then we would have had another suspect. I want to go back on the, game? There. So, think so. Earlier testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Yes, that's right. You said the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe. What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard the scream from the seats on the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then, when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. Really? I don't think you can. That line of sight doesn't add up to me. Like, not even... No. That is a dirty lie. You would have to get up and stand above the skylight on the other side even, maybe. The gentleman was on the floor, and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes. And the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. I don't like it. So, in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought I did, but when I go over it again in my head... No, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Truth!
Struth! Pursue!
Excuse me!
Excuse me! Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. You didn't really see the exact moment that the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Huh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Okay, let's be clever. Safe to save, be clever. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Lancaster, hi, welcome. And I hope you've had an excellent day. Good morning. Good morning to you too. We are ace-attorneying our way through the courtroom like the trailblazers of justice we are, yelling yes in the courtroom and getting all sorts of good stuff done. It'll be great. Unless you spent your time peeping through a skylight on the top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as a Ballarat day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I'm getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that alright. Tell you just how grim it was. Alright, this might be our chance. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man? I mean, gloves is what you're looking for, yes? Not hands. Had a hard time getting into Japanese games. Yakuza is an exception. Do you mean like just Japanese made, or like because really many games are made in Japan? Like all of Resident Evil, all of Street Fighter, all of Metal Gear Solid, all of Silent Hill. Well, the first four. Like video games are very much made in Japan. You know. Like until not like somewhat recently, so like a big number of them are Dark Souls. You know, is it like do you mean like all of those too, or how? Guess it's games that are pretty much similar to anime and Final Fantasy. Ah, that makes it different though. Like, you mean like JRPGs and visual novels, maybe? Is more importantly what you're trying to say. I'm a big fan of Ace Attorney, I can't help it. Ace Attorney is awesome. Alright, so
Hold it!
let's press on this first. Blood-soaked? Well, perhaps soaked is laying in a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them, And you saw that from the roof, through the skylight. Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. And there was a lamp on the inside of the carriage as well, so I'm quite sure of what I saw. This banker's latest statement. Yeah, it feels sure there's something not quite right about it. When you feel something doesn't add up, Mr. Naruhodo, that's when you should have a good look through the court record. Not long ago, this trial very nearly came to an end. Somehow we've managed to keep our chances alive here. I can't waste this cross-examination. I have to use it to bring some new facts to light. If you're not careful when you press these witnesses, the danger is that the jury will end up believing something unhelpful as they did before. Maybe, but we can't let the fear of that happening stop us from uncovering important new information. Yes, you're right. I need to pay careful attention here. I don't want to miss even a flicker of a reaction among these witnesses. Remember, if you happen to spot one of the witnesses reacting in a strange way, don't hesitate to pursue them as to the reason. Right, so all the way... I think I have the save there. So fuck! Wrong button. Sorry. Just a minute. There. E for present. And there.
Objection!
Objection! Blood-soaked hands? Well, I admit that soaked might be laying it down a little thick, but anyway, definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there, but as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Ah! In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. Woo! I tried to get into Final Fantasy 7 Remake was fun to play, but 15 is a game I have mixed thoughts with. Didn't become a fan of the series. Final Fantasy is a very it's a very up and down series in a bunch of ways. I've finished only 1 and 15. I've played 1, 4, 5, 6, a little bit of 7. 10 to 12 and 15, and only finished 1 and 15. Some of them are really good, some of them are less interesting. The games have not very much in common with each other, apart from basically many of them share like combat systems that like you know, baseline ideas, and some very, very vague themes about crystals and summons and whatever, but you know, some are good and some are not good. Like, I hear the 13 games were universally most people didn't really get into those, for example. So you know, But you know, that's the beauty of video games. Different stuff for everyone, right? Like, but again, I also haven't finished more than 2, so I guess I'm not like obsessed about Final Fantasy games. So there's that. I finished some Super Nintendo games back in the day that were like, you know, Lagoon is an action RPG sort of. So that's a little different. Tales of Vesperia I finished some time back. I thought that was actually pretty good. I liked that one. You know, so it goes. But it's... Oh, and Resonance of Fate was very interesting. I was constantly amazed by the unique take on combat in that game, for example. So, you know. But for me as well, a game needs to be more than just a typical JRPG to be interesting. But in the same way, a game needs to be better than a simple Western RPG as well. So, you know, that's how it goes. More in the game designed by Western gamers. It's hard to... Again, I think you might be overarching on what you're trying to say, because Japanese, like, video games essentially came from Japan. Like, every Nintendo, like, NES and SNES game you've ever enjoyed is Japanese. With like 99-point-something% accuracy. And the ones I listed, like, so many games come from Japan you wouldn't necessarily think of to begin with, so it's... Again, Final Fantasy isn't all of Japan, and anime isn't all of Japan. Again, especially stuff like Resident Evils or Dark Souls or, you know, Dragon's Dogma is Japanese. It's like all of Capcom, all of Konami, all of Nintendo, all of, like, if you've ever played Mario, like, or Zelda or whatever, like, it's, you know, designed for Western gamers is, and I don't know, plenty of those are, I believe, designed for both kinds of gamers, though, especially like Dark Souls. I'm not sure it like tries to rely on Western or Eastern especially, really. So, you know, it's kind of this, you don't have to be a fan of JRPGs or games that have an anime style to them. Or something. That's perfectly valid. That's fine, you know? It's a broad, like, it may be something that just one doesn't have a fully thought out opinion on like what games one likes and what doesn't, but then again, doesn't have to have. You just get a game and you either like it or you don't. It's so good, right? Your testimony is inconsistent. But no, that can't be right. So you're the liar here, then. For example, I have a hard time thinking that, like, Resident Evil games are made especially for either or. Like, I think they sell equally good, like, pretty much anywhere. Like, they even have different names for the different countries and they still work out fine, like Biohazard and, you know. I believe. Yeah. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said, it was both hands. Grrr. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but was that really the truth?
Objection!
Objection! It was a simple mistake. You can't just justify accusing a man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
Objection! No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands. That is true. Which means there is a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Ah! Why? Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. Yes. He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case? Maybe. Oh yeah, talking about JRPGs, there are some games I like. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And it's... Talking about which types of games are good and not good, or liked and not liked, is always really hard. Like, the only genre I usually don't get into is real-time strategy. But even some, like, real-time city building stuff or park building stuff, I might enjoy. So it's, you know... Like, I enjoyed Jurassic World Evolution. I thought it was pretty decent. If we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, we could turn the tide of this trial completely. Let's look at the ledger with the debtor's ledger. Maybe he's indebted to Maggie. Let's see. This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you we will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Alright. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this court is well off. Is in this country, sorry. Ah, goodness. What is it? Look at this. Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. There we go. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment. Oh yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. There we go. Thank you very much. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony. I have evidence! My lord. Yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Ah! Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court. Debtor's ledger, let's go!
Take that!
Take that! You're playing the first AC game, okay. Let's go. Sounds like a plan. I think you mentioned that. You maybe. I had a conversation last stream about the first Assassin's Creed. I think you might have mentioned, but still, yeah. Or maybe that we were. Yeah. Cool. My memory works. Woo! How have you enjoyed it? There's a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused's extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name. Mr. Bruce Fairplay. I like it. Cool! Glad to hear. What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Well, what of it? let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw, in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Gah! Ah! Order, order, order. Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. I do appreciate that this is like the first Ace Attorney game I've played all of the Western releases. The first Ace Attorney game, I believe, that actually fully keeps on mentioning perjury, because in all the other Ace Attorney games, the witnesses lie all the time, every time, and they are still completely reliable the next time around in the next statement, and they still cause the guilty verdict if you don't do everything perfectly, and no one's ever convicted of the lies. It's just perjury after perjury after perjury, and it's just nothing is mentioned of it. But this at least keeps on pointing it out. That's at least something, right? Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands, both of them.
Objection!
Objection! And yet only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. Sure, so you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself as it happens. I guess when I talk about Japanese games, I usually mean games that look like anime and forget all kinds of games are made in Japan. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of what it sounded like, and I mean, visual preference is a preference. So, that's everyone has their tastes, right? Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? What? It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all of you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Santa Claus is angry. That's serious, that stuff. When Santa Claus is angry, things are serious. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. Witness testimony. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. I don't think the witnesses will be getting Christmas presents. Yeah, I think the Christmas will be a very coal-heavy Christmas for these people. However, I suppose you might say I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. Now that's the thing, would you have? There's a compartment under the seat, because there is room for a small person to do a stabby stab from. Well, lo and behold, in truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That's the thing. If both hands, then that's someone else. Yeah, see, we came to the conclusion, Jackster, that Santa Claus, that we have finally discovered the, like, off-season job of Santa Claus, you know? Like, Santa Claus on one day gives presents on Christmas, and then all the other 364 days of the year, he's a judge in an old English court, and guilty verdicts for murder are death penalties. So his real gift to the world is trying to prevent overcrowding by doing lots of death penalties in the meantime, in between Christmases. That's the conclusion we reached. By logical reasoning, yes. Alright. Grr, that much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Giving death penalties so he doesn't have to give many presents. That is also true, but still, yes. That's a side bonus, I think. Yeah. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant chance in the facts of the case. There, I find doubt here. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel. He sends people to dance the hempen jig. Sure. Yes, my lord. Let's cross-examination. Let's go. What they really saw. This part intrigues me because there is a space.
Hold it!
Hold it! And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus. Seems that Lemmy Kilmister faked death and became fair play. Seems like, yeah. Seems absolutely like. Yep, that's seems like the case. That's right, it was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Is it usually frosted over then? Is there bad anti-frost? That could be an important clue, yes. An important clue as to the anti-frost, yes. Important information, this. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering, it was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the rock deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked. That's right. And it's a public bus service, for pity's sake. That's not what I call a fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up on the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down, I was glaring long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? They might not have been able to. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You're riding the omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck, is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. But the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Objection! Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. But Santa, we've been so nice! You will identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated? Okay, safety save, but I mean, surely they can't see directly below them. Like about here?
Take that!
Take that! Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other. Which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, is as I've drawn here. Ha! That's right, my lord, as you can see. The seat opposite the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. Ah!
Objection!
Objection! It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. I mean, in other words, there's reasonable doubt, my dude. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I drew to you evidence just now. I cannot entertain this conjecture. Have you never heard of reasonable doubt? That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. It was you, Santa Claus, all along. I accuse you. Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? I mean, we don't really have people. I mean, unless it was male Strongheart, like, we don't really have people to talk about here. You know, the Lord Chief Justice happened to be the murderer instead. You know? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses of the roof deck? I mean... how could I know? I choose you, Santa Chew, exactly. Sometimes the negative answer is the correct one. I have literally no idea. But as a proud citizen of the Japanese Empire, we will look to the sky and walk on, making sure all signs of tears are gone. Go on. This isn't just a case of going on, Mr. Sato. Alright then, I'll go on. The defense would like to put forward an— No! I said no! I don't have a name! There's no one left! AC has friendly fire on, enemies and NPCs actually hit each other with swords. Well, there you are. It's realistic, yes? Yes. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitation. Like, what is the population of London in this time? Because that's literally anyone in London. Like, come on. How could I, like... unless it's the Chief Justice by a gargantuan coincidence, how could it... Like, come on. A toast to hard lessons not yet learned. That's not the day, Counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting to turn the trial in my favor. On that night, on the night of murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was... Susato, I'm sorry, but we have to throw you to the wolves now. Like, what? So, hold on. I'm kind... So, am I trying to say that the two people just weren't sitting next to each other? Because we still don't have another fare of a person on the thing. So he would have been a not paying customer if there's another person? But... So, let's assume for a minute that first is telling the truth. And he saw hands and a knife. Then does that mean that he was sitting in the... Like, I'm really confused. Am I trying to assert a new person? What? The blindest of blind guesses, like, excuse me, what? Oh, no, wait, hold on, give me a quick second. I think the blood was on the right side of the entrance, meaning that the murder victim was sitting there, yes?
Take that!
Okay, no. I thought I had something here. Like, I thought I saw the blood spatter on the blind side. Okay.
Take that!
Very well. The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witnesses on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, Counsel? That's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
Objection! Whoa! If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do you forgive the discourtesy? Lord Van Zeeks. People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own. But I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Now, their faces were obscured though, my dude. Not visible at all. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It is the very premise on which this case is built.
Objection!
Objection! But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claimed that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Objection! Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains.
Objection!
Objection! The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yet the testimony remains unchanged. Exactly. They both adamantly swear, by an adamantium golem, that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
Objection! And who was this third party? It was you all along, Van Zeeks! You and the Santa Claus are in cahoots! Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary. Order, order, order. What exactly are you postulating?
Objection!
Objection! The defense's postulation is just that. Nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
Objection! But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them though. That's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter. The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilded, would have undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you are proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled. He was sleeping. Ah. He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it. Order! There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? Demand testimony! Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Ah yes, I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGildet has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say? Oh yes, that would be lovely. Yes, the jury says the man must be heard. Very well, the court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff showed the defendant to the stand at once. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGildet, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Begad, no, it is not in my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell my news all or keep my mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGildet? The fine fellow representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true! Aye, and it was me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. You... What? No, Magnus McGildet, that convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Banziques. I'm sure you will be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Which was? Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and not in any way involved, you see. What? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. And who was this young child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know? Aye, well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since.
Objection!
Objection! We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witnesses' statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak. Listen to the proceedings. What? Ah, smoke! Ah, fire! There's a fire! Look, someone's trying to get away! After them! It's no use! Can't see anything through the smoke! What's going on? Be careful, Naruhoro. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff, amid scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. To be continued. There we go. So, if you are watching this on YouTube, if you've enjoyed watching, do smash that like button. And please subscribe if you would like to see more, because it would truly be extremely important to me, and it would completely make my day. But I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope to catch you in the next case. Next part of this case. And join me here live on Twitch. It's a fun time, I hope, to watch me bumble about and wonder how it all happened and who done it. So, hell yeah, and hopefully see you in the next one.